We are live. Hi, Chi. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hey, Grace. Grace, seeing you today.
So I'm so excited about our conversation about everything agentic payment. But before that, I want to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Nebius, the ultimate cloud for AI innovators. Nebius provides AI infrastructure you can count on, combining reliability and speed with flexibility and engineering support unmatched by hyperscalers. AI leaders like Meta, Shopify, and Hicksville already partner with Nebius to run their AI workloads. Plus, venture-backed startup can save up to 150K on compute costs when they apply for access. Visit Nebius.com or nebius.com/startup to learn more. Okay, to start with her show, I want to give the audience a little bit of your background. So you have done like machine learning at UC Berkeley, and you have worked at iconic tech companies like Databricks before starting your company, Kite AI. Why don't we start with like what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of shaping into who you are today?
Yeah, no, I think definitely a couple of, I think very vivid memory about the lessons from academia to industry. I think one thing, the top lesson to me definitely is data is everything. I think that's probably also reflected from the company that I choose to work with and also later on started. But when I was in school, I think a lot of the focus at the time was focused on algorithm itself. But when it comes to industry, I think particularly when it comes to enterprises, they have tons of data that's are siloed across different data sources, and it's not unified. It has data quality issue, but everything that those problems coming from the data stage will be then transmitted to the model training stage, which means that if you don't have the data, a good data quality and good amount of data come into the model, everything that you do downstream is much less meaningful. Which I think that's further applied to nowadays the generative AI model training or like post-training stages. As nowadays LLM is actually consuming a lot more data than what the old school traditional machine learning and statistics learning are doing. So I think that's is definitely like the first lesson. And the second lesson is when it comes to scale up system or like supporting the customer needs, I think that again the underlying actually invisible engineering, particular infrastructure work, is actually the key to make everything not breaking and working as you felt it's just supposed to be work. So that's just, I think the another thing I felt not being exposed to too much in my very early days of career, but once I get into the industry, that's actually become I would say the invisible. It's invisible team, you know, even like a captain in the team to make everything that's really hold up.
For sure. I want to start from like you mentioned about like infra and data is like really important, and maybe we could start from like the agentic payment industry on like what it is, what is the current existing solution now, since like people were using like Shopify and everything, but nowadays like for the payment kind of like area that we have like quite a few like Sapien and then like some other like AI company that's like doing AI native agentic payment that like it essentially enable AI agent to um, transact. Maybe we could start from like the agentic payment industry on like how does the money flow and what are some like big players out there to like the newest technology itself.
Sounds great. So I think before actually we dive into agentic payment, one thing I want to a little bit background I want to give is to the payment itself. So because in the end of the day, no matter it's a human payments, or like a developer-oriented payment solution like a Stripe, or nowadays what we are building and some other company are building for agent payments, it's all around payment. So then, what is the traditional or like a human-centric payment flow look like in this process? So initially, what if you are a user? Let's say you want to you want to shop on Amazon. Then what it will do is you have, let's say, a credit card. that you prepared for the shopping. If let's say you have already select the items that you want to check out. So then during the checkout stage, what you will do is you provide your card information to this gateway that's actually Amazon provided on their website. And this gateway then will pop your information to like the underlying, actually it's a very complex chain of transaction or like the parties in the process, which include like the, for example, you're as a user who have your credit card that is actually issued by the issuing, it's called the issuing bank, which actually is like your Chase or your, like a American Express type of card that's issued by the bank that's focused on consumer bank. And then the consumer bank need to then in this process using some well-known solution. Everybody probably know the company called like Visa type of approach. It's the card network that's then it's the protocol that they will communicate from their own system to what they call like the merchant or acquirer bank. So in this case, that is usually like more like the business-oriented banks that issue accounts and do all those KYB and a bunch of things that for merchant particular customers. And in this case, if they validate that, oh, this card is valid, it has all the information you need, like you provided the good CVV, you provide the right address code, zip code, and all the stuff, then they will say, okay, I think this is not a fraud detection. And actually this judgment is made by the issuing bank, which is your Chase, for example. Then the Chase will say, okay, I think it's good. Let's go to pay for that, because then in this case, it's actually they pay to the merchants, right? So they are actually taking the responsibility of the risk of, like a fraudulent activities and everything. And then once they have say, okay, I pay you, and everything seems like across the line or like have already been sent to the merchant, which actually is not the case. Because what happened in this process, even they shake the hand, is still that the agreement is like on paper, but there's no real settlement or reconciliation yet, which means that usually it's, for example, like in the end of the day, or even like take a bit longer, then there will be a batch of, or like a group of settlements that happen between that two banks. That one issue your credit card and one is providing the accounts to merchant. And in this case, once that settlement happened, then the money will start really being transferred from one bank account to another bank account. And obviously after that, even once you settle that, some bad things can happen because the customer will say, oh, I got the wrong item or I got the broken item. So I need to get refund. I need to do a chargeback. So in this case, then there could also be some, like a back and forth discussions from those, like this whole, like a big network, including the protocols, tools, and multiple parties in the process to decide whether we're going to actually approve this chargeback and then return the money from, like merchant side to the customer's credit card bank. And then that's what we, like go back to where, depending on how the customer set it up. But this is the whole flow of, like a traditional payment flow that's include about like 12, 13 steps that involves probably like 6, 7, 8, even like a different parties yeah. So sorry for this, like a long description, but this is actually very critical.
Oh, I love this. I feel like this is a very important part to know.
Yeah, thank you. To understand then, what does that mean when it comes to agentic payments? So that's why I felt agentic payments itself doesn't change too much about the underlying parties if you are using the same system, which in this case, let's say if we say credit card, we're still allowing the card network to be used as the main or like the dominant payment method for agent to make the payments. Then all the steps we described underlying, majority of them will not be skipped. Probably we need even like a longer steps, because now we have to also validate the relationship between like human and the agents. And obviously, like if there's some delegation or authority permission that the human is giving to their agents, or even like their meta agents, which right now we have some tons of like a multi-agent system, and the meta agent need to also pass that delegation to like the worker agent. In this whole process, that probably is going to make this process further complex if we're staying in the same system. However, there's another way to look around and see like what is a better way for agents or better payment methods, or like the entire like payment flow mechanism design for agentic commerce in this process. So that's why some of the like novel solutions or like interesting discussions that's coming around, for example, like stablecoin based approach rather than like a credit card based approach, is one of the very popular trend and like popular direction people are experimenting and testing. And if we do that instead of a core network, for example, then we call it, there's a 8 type of different middlemen or parties involved in that in that whole process. From traditional payment flow is probably going to go down to like, let's say 2-3 parties in the process, which means it's going to be quicker, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be like the all those like even compliance work that we need to do here is more lightweighted. Let alone that there's a lot of like unique criteria or unique characteristics that's coming from agentic payments compared to traditional payment. For example, like the amount of transaction itself and the speed of the transaction itself, because agent is acting at machine speed. And also every single transaction that an agent is making, for example, nowadays, if you're vibe coding, building a lot of tons of, like a product probably underlying has a lot of like API services that you're wrapped on top of that app, meaning that technically every single call you're making to those API service is actually could be just a single payment transaction. But in this case, it's probably much less than a normal payment transaction amount that you can think of in like the normal like e-commerce or shopping scenario, which usually will be like over at least like $10 or like $20, right? And in this case, then agentic payments, when it comes to API services or digital services, native services, could be broken if you're using those traditional payment method because it's too expensive, for example, because if you're using core network, you're charging for 3% plus, or I think it's 3% plus 2.9 cents, which could be very expensive to a lot of the agent native payments scenarios we're looking at.
I wonder, so like one of the things I'm curious about like is when I was like chatting with other agentic payment founders, a lot of people are saying that like AI agent and like versus like a human transaction, the main difference is like right now a lot of the human, for example, like Stripe, they verify if you're a human first before you actually do the transaction. And the AI agent, it's just like really difficult to like kind of like bypass that part. So from I guess like from the technology level, like what are some ways that you feel like agentic payment is like different than traditional payment concept?
Very good question. Actually, this is a very I think it's in the very beginning of when we designed Kite, we run into exactly the same problem that you mentioned, because I still vividly remember the first demo we're trying to make was using ChatGPT ordering Uber Eats for you. And then before you even reach to that, telling Uber order what the food and like the budget and everything stops, we already got stuck on logging stage because the agents just cannot bypass the CAPTCHA system that Uber has designed for human. Because usually you have to check if they will ask you a bunch of like, oh, is this a car or among those 9 figures of 9 charts, which one belong to like that description, something like that. So I think from that perspective, then there's a couple of ways that you can bypass it, or you can like solve that pain point. One is obviously I think nowadays very popular solution like a browser based. approach, which then even if you're using cloud code nowadays, then tons of times, if they cannot somehow bypass the just the API, pure API based approach, then they will say like, can I spin up the cloud extension, and then do the things on the browser. So I think that's one way. And another way, but I think is what, to me, I felt it's going to be a very temporary stage of how agents, internet should be looking at and working. I think the more permanent way is one, each of the agents itself actually have the identity that they can actually prove and validate who they are and where they come from. Even like underlying that probably have a lot of information like, oh, who my human principal or like organization principal is, and what's the purpose of me as an agent. And then with that, what is the specific authorization permission that I carry for this particular session or this particular request that I'm coming to your website or coming to your account, because I must come here for a reason, right? If I come here for no reason, then either I'm doing something hallucination or I'm trying to attack you. I explain that well. So I think that's why the identity piece is gonna, it's be so critical to us that when we design the whole solution, as well, we felt that it's gonna be like a more permanent solution to solve that. And a second, obvious, is how we have a strong belief that the future agentic internet will be all like API based, or majority of that will be API based. So then, like the API based solutions for for example, like headless approach that require no kind of like the traditional login credential, but with other security, like cybersecurity ways to prove or authorize and authenticate yourself. For that is something that we think it's the way to go. And obviously, as you can see, nowadays, like a lot of the more payment protocol designed for agents, like X42 or MPP, it's all I think it's all marching towards that trend, or like adoption.
I have a question about the identity part. So like, how do you identify the agent? My agent is my agent. So I think I also heard about this, the identity part a lot, about like, yeah, how do you identify my agents doing things for me versus your agent?
That's actually a very good question, which again goes to I think the future. I think which is yet to come. But anyways, I think the first to think about verification is what type of things we want to verify here. First is you definitely want to verify again who you are, meaning that if you have an owner, who do you belong to? Because in a lot of cases that nowadays, maybe in the ultimate future, we will say agents truly have their own identity that's really like belong to them. They're created like somehow out of box by another agent. But even with that, I would assuming that the agent that creating another agent has an owner underlying, because it cannot just be today suddenly like OpenAI just released 1 million of non-owner registered agents to the internet and do random things. If that's the case, then we will say all those agents belong to OpenAI, let's say. So I think one is who this agent belong to, and the second is what is those permission status that's carried in this agent, meaning that if you are asking your agent, let's say it's my agent talking to your agent, and say today somehow the reason I talk to you is you are holding some of the most valuable financial data that I need to purchase for my investment, and in or like strategy creation. And in that case, I probably has that very specific, like intention or like a task that's in my mind that I need to come in for paying for that, and obviously that purchase for that. And underlying, I have a lot of like guardrail or configuration say that how long I want to how much budget I have here, and what is the time window this request I will come to your platform or your API service that will be valid, because maybe after 3 days I want to just completely shut down this request and say that I will, assuming that task be finished, for example, in that case. So that means a lot of the information, the point of saying this is a lot of the information will be carried from agent that to another agent when they are asking the other side of the agent to do something. So that validation of the identity itself, if we think about from a broader scope perspective, it's actually go beyond just to say prove who you are. But it goes back to, let's say, just focus on prove who you are perspective. I think right now we have in Kite, what we designed a solution is what we call the 3-layer of delegation or 3-layer of ID system. Meaning that we just briefly talked about as an agent, you usually have a user that belong to or that own this agent. But on the other side, if you go further, for each agent, especially if you are like a more general purpose agent, you probably for each of the session or each of the task that's your human principal or like other meta agent ask you as a worker agent to do will have different purpose, and which means like a different type of authorization permission scope that's usually given. So from that perspective, then this 3-layer of ID system we design is from like user ID to agent itself ID to like the session ID. And it's very simple to think about user ID because people have done tons of work already to prove that, from KYC perspective or KYB perspective, if it's a business. But when it comes to agent ID, particularly when say like a KYA, a lot of people call it like their agents, but how would that look like? Right now, I think there's a few approach that people are doing that. But one of the approach that we really like, for example, is in some way, like when you have the agents up running, it's always run in an environment, right? For example, like you have a sandbox environment that hosting that agent, no matter it's like for more persistent, permanent, or like ephemeral. But you have that environment, meaning that the environment, the sandbox environment ID itself, for example, is a very good representative of the agent's ID itself. If you want to make it a more like verifiable, or even like have a little bit more information surround that to make it another version or like a variation of the agent ID, you can do that. But the point is, how can you make sure that this agent is really coming also from this environment that has not been tweaked or not been, maliciously attacked and changed before it's reaching to another side of the agent or like the other side of the website and the products, that digital products that they want to reach and make a request or a payment for.
For sure. I have some questions about like, nowadays, like, so on Monday we had a founder who was like designing the new, like, I guess like agentic Figma / agentic Canva. Essentially like, AI agent are only interacting with like code or like numbers versus like, human interact with like, the image. So for example, if I want to eat like granola bar, I just want to see like a beautiful granola bar designing or whatever. I mean, I like David's bar, but like this, cute little packaging, blah, blah, blah. But like for agents, they may just like look into, I guess, like the ingredient, the price, or like, all that kind of stuff. So how should like, I guess like how should like agentic payment or like agentic selection be more like, I guess like what's the differentiation between like if a human is making the decision of buying versus like an agent, and then how do we as a as a brand, how should you really stand out among like, I guess like AEO GEO compared to the regular universe?
Again, this is a very good question because literally recently I had a very interesting conversation with one of the biggest e-commerce platform in Asia. Actually, I think it's the biggest one. If people know.
Are you talking about Taobao?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just from that group, right? I think I think they pointed out very interesting, two very interesting statements here. One is actually the current agents' shopping experience to them is still very like standardized, which is bad because technically shopping should be very personalized if you think
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
That's why Amazon, if you ask them what's the biggest value they have, probably like a valuable asset, one of the most valuable asset probably is their customer data. They understand why you want this. And immediately when you log into Amazon, you will see all your old kind of like a preferred items in the past that comes in, and with all those like images and the most important information that you as a human will look for. Which, by the way, that's also why recently I was thinking like, why even like with AI can do so many things. I felt sometimes I still prefer to actually log in and look at all those websites by myself to do the shopping. So that's one. I think the actually echo back to what you are saying. I think the how human is approaching the shopping and looking at more than what just the agent is looking at is a richer set of data set that the human is interested in, and which means that the more those type of data that's accumulated there for e-commerce platforms, the more valuable recommendation they can make in the future for you. But on the other side, I think the second comments that they're making is also very interesting, which I think it further goes to the personalization piece. Is actually, if you look at shopping use case, shopping is it's a huge area. So it depends on what type of shopping you're making. Are you doing like a grocery shopping? Are you doing like a luxury, for example, luxury bag type of shopping, or like a clothes shopping? Each of those type of shopping verticals probably have also very different type of a domain knowledge or expertise to know how to shop better. So the way that you will approach the shopping criteria, like what you will search on even like the same platform, will be very different. So that further goes to like how do you add the personalized experience and the verticalized experience in the shopping process, rather than nowadays when you use agentic shopping, agentic payments, it's still very like just a you become more like a distribution as an AI company, for example, like if you're a chatbot, you become more like just a normal distribution channel to those merchants or brand to give the list of recommendations to the end user. So that is what that group's comments made, right? But on the other side, I would also like to use one of the comments I heard from Shopify in Agentic Commerce conference. What they're saying, which actually I think it's a little bit contradictory, or it's in the other way of looking at why it's not necessarily a bad idea for brand or like for agentic payments, agentic shopping to just look at the ingredients type of thing. It's because if you go to like a more long tail item shopping, then what the end user, what the consumer is looking for is less about actually how beautiful it is, how much like a recognizable brand feeling you have there. It's more about just that you wanted the function. You want it to be fitting to the budget, which goes back to what you are commented. Then it's like the if I look at the ingredient, if I look at the price, boom, boom, the both of them match the what I need, I'll just go with that. So I think really, okay, first of all, depending on if the brand if the merchants that you're talking for is targeting what type of audience, type of customers. So I felt if they are targeting more like the long tail use cases, then I think probably just try to make your product catalog that's very accurate, very, have all the necessary functional information needed in that process. It needed for the agent to validate is probably a very good step for you to do, for it to go, because that means as long as from function perspective, it matches what the consumer's needs, probably you have a chance to be recommended there. And majority of the time right now, if you look at the challenges that agents is looking, be able to go to the final payment steps for shopping, like a physical goods, a lot of times is actually even stopped at the first step of product discoverability. So I think as a merchant, probably, or like a brand, the first thing I would suggest is really make sure that your product catalog is up to date, is actually agent friendly, is actually searchable from like API, so that they can see exactly, do the comparison as themselves. And on the other side, if you are a brand that wanna, like, let's say, like more recognizable feeling, like a luxury brand and all the stuff, then I think that's probably means that you need that differentiated feeling in that case. From that perspective, I felt how you can goes up to become like more recognized by agents probably require also help, or like also some further development from the agent platform company, that they are able to connect the end user, let's say the consumer's preference, on like what they want. And those type of information is actually sitting in the context, even like the global context for that shopping agents that are using to shop for things. So then the agents will further know, for example, like for this particular type of shopping needs, this user in the past has a very strong demand on, or like strong preference on like what's the shape look like, what's the like even like the origin, where that product comes from, those type of things I felt need to be there to actually make the experience overall for a brand to be more, I think, personalized and differentiated from just being considered as a very functional driven search and shopping.
For sure. So should the description to be like actually in like the code format, or should it be more towards like you just have like all the keywords? How is the discovery process kind of like?
That's a very good question. I think ultimately everything that we're doing, or like we're passing to AI in some way, to me is like in a code friendly format. Even if it's an image, you are still passing that to a machine to read and interpret that. So I think it should be in some way a code friendly format. But on the other side, I think it's again goes beyond, I feel, the keywords. It could still have additional informations, like even like image or video that's has been put there. But how would those information will be processed and being picked up by agents? I felt there's still a lot of the like unfinished or like uncompleted things to be done. For example, like if you're as a brand, actually you put some good videos there for not only agent to pick up, but in the future could be like the human principle of that agent want to also see that. And maybe I would imagine in the future, if you are user using agent chatbot, or like for example, like a CAPTCHA or ChatGPT, how the overall experience should be look like, because you are still human. Let's say you are not agents that do autonomous work. If you are involved human in this process, we're still very, very possible to drawn to like a visual expression. So in that case, maybe in those chats history, or like in the chats interface, you will see a lot of things that help you to make the decision. If let's say you still need to be in the loop, for example, for very expensive purchase, if it's a very simple, a very cheap, or like a standard like office procurement or company procurement process, probably no. But if you are talking about very personalized shopping experience, you probably still want to have those information be able to pop to human. But on the other side, the agent also need to process that and be able to pick up those information. So from that perspective, then how can we make this process more efficient and cost effective, for example? Because if you ask the agent to read through the entire, watch through the entire video, it could be too expensive to do that every single time. So how do you make that more efficient? Again, I think it's not just the brand or the e-commerce platforms work, but it's also goes to the underlying infrastructure or the developer tools that need to be more mature to make this whole experience more smooth. But nowadays, I think obviously before we go into even the fancy approach, be able to optimize the keywords, the catalog, and all those informations as a merchant or brand for the products that you're selling is already, I think, very good boost to increase the AEO type of the recommendation position for you.
For sure.
We actually did that for Kai as well ourselves.
I love it. Please do it for me as well. Not that anyone will shop on our website, but just in case. I wonder when you're thinking about the distribution channel. So obviously, I think you guys you mentioned about this on a different podcast about essentially looking at native shopping experience from a chat system, from whether it's ChatGPT or Cloud or anywhere that you won't really need to leave the platform to really perform the transaction. And how is it kind of looking at how is it doing right now in terms of the broad, I guess the chat shopping experience? Do you feel that's going to be the future, or would you envision people really just go on a website but clicking on a Kite API and then it just immediately shop for you? How do you think about the future of the agentic shopping experience?
I think compared to probably 6 months ago, what we did, there's some new kind of hypothesis or new thesis we developed here. So I think first of all, definitely I don't think we want people to, the experience should not look like, oh, I have to go to that website, and particularly I have to go to Amazon or go to a AZ to use a shopping agents that's sitting on that website, or having Kite underlying power that shopping agent for the end user. That doesn't make sense, and that is something people have already done. For example, I think Amazon has already released that shopping agent sit on the Amazon website, that actually if you're an Amazon user, no matter on the website or on your app, you can use that. But I think the adoption is pretty, is not taking off, because I felt the ultimate experience people are looking at, once we solve all the challenges we mentioned, a product discoverability issue, and also have all the information that probably help human to make decision better than just looking at the very emotionless or just ingredients, those type of statistics.
Mhm.
Also no personalized data. I think if all those stats, let's say, assume have been solved in this case,
Mhm.
then I would say it's definitely a better way to us to stay in one place that people can reach to different type of a website and make the shopping. So it should definitely not be you go to each of the website to shop one by one. So that to me is probably a very V1 of this stage. And then what's the ideal way to do that? Initially, what we are thinking is what you just mentioned, probably go to ChatGPT, or even we enable people can use Kite as a skill, or a plugin on Cloud Code or Codex to do shopping, the terminal experience if you want. But that is assuming that every single request in our daily life right now, all coming from the chatbot experience, for example. But I felt it might be ultimately the future, but it's not there yet. So how can we actually make the interact, or the touch point to the end user more frequent, or a more than just a support chatbot, is something that I felt we have developed some new hypothesis here. So if you remember, Cloud recently launched something called the Cloud Tag. That's basically is bring Cloud as a coworker to your Slack workspace, so that you can use, like Cloud seamlessly on your Slack and tell them like, hey, this is actually let's say employee or a teammates reported a bug to the product, and you just say, hey, Cloud, take a look at it, fix it. So basically, it's become a real coworker for you. And that's is kind of a similar experience right now. Kite, for example, provide to our customers as well, is through like a Slack bot experience. That's basically then, if you are doing, for example, like an office supplier procurement, shopping for like the sparkling water, shopping for like the projector and all those type of things for your office, then this actually is a coworker, like a business ops teammates for everybody to just go to talk to, say, hey, I'm using I need to get like two USB cables and
I
one.
actually remember I was at your office and then your team gave me the snack that's like bought by Kite.
Yeah, but at that time, actually, what we did is through the chatbots experience, and also like But again, the point is how I felt to us is we need to go to where the customers are, meaning that whatever tools or like place that they spend a lot of time on and potentially can be having some, let's say, agentic payments or agentic commerce needs to be solved in that environment, we should be able to enable the experience in that environment. So maybe ultimately, let's say, Slack doesn't even exist because somehow people also use just the terminal or like the cloud codecs type of interface to collaborate with each other. Even though I doubt it for now, but let's say it's going to happen. Then in that case, maybe the interface or like the entry interface for users to use the solutions like Kite will be further shrinking down to just that few options. But right now, I think there's still a few other places like Slack that people are using very often. People are collaborating there. There's payment needs. There's like e-commerce shopping needs, for example. Then we should make that happen as well. And similarly, I think not only that, but also just one more thing to add here. If you are, for example, talking about developer-related use case, for example, if we're saying like using Cloud Code or like a Lovable type of solutions to do vibe coding, then underlying for the to support those products, there are so many like developer tools that will also be used to support that. Like you use Versal for front end deployment, you use Railway for like overall deployments, and let's say Resend for messaging and all those things. Then how can we actually also make those tools potentially become like a distribution channels and things for us, and also like the tools that we can support for developers to pay for is another direction or another approach that right now we're doing to further expand the coverage we have for agentic payments use case for developers and also distribution channels.
For sure. I also want to quickly talk about like, okay, so this is like not for you, but like for the audience, I mean, apparently there's like 70 people joined from X. Can you guys, if you guys have any question, you can try to comment. Sometimes the platform doesn't show, but like hopefully the platform really perform and show your question. So if you have any question for Chief, feel free to like drop in the chats. So I want to start with like another big like area that I wanted to like chat about is like essentially the go-to-market strategy for this, and then also the strategy itself for Kite AI, because as you know that like I think for people to purchase things for a company or like for corporate, as you mentioned, like a teammate in the ops team, it's very different than like the monetization model from like, you know, consumer agents. Though consumer agents like a lot more, the market is like a lot more like broad and bigger as like people transact all the time. The stickiness and the though like this like the number of transactions is like a lot. The amount of transaction maybe it's like smaller, but like I mean, the payment size is maybe smaller than corporate, but like it's like the frequency is a lot higher. So how do you think about like do you design the Kite AI for enterprise or for consumer, and maybe the go-to-market solution for it as well? So for example, is that going to be like a huge partnership with like you know ChatGPT or cloud versus like would it be more towards like you partner with brands similar to like you know Klarna or like Stripe or maybe Shopify to like you know create the experience? And then also like another adjacent question would be like the competitive landscape. So nowadays like you know I'm sure like I think you know Coinbase or like I think they're your investor as well, but like oh no, that's PayPal venture, sorry. So like basically like all these like major blockchain related platforms or like even yeah just or the payment platform itself are trying to figure out agentic payment. So how do you think about like the competition landscape in that space as well?
Yeah. Again, very good question. I think let's. I think I will answer. Yeah, I'll answer that from three angles. One is when it comes to the current target ICP or like the understanding about who the potential customers we should go after in the short term. Our rank at the moment is actually we felt is going to be developers first, and then enterprise second, and consumer third. Meaning that it's more like the current adoption phase of each of the ICP in the process. Because we even though we spend a lot of time talking about consumer related use case, I felt the current for the current status, there's still a lot of frictions points for end users to feel that it's so seamless to use chatbot or use AI to do the shopping for me. Because when it comes to consumer, particularly, usually the shopping items we can think of is the e-commerce type of thing. So that's why I think initially a lot of people we chatter with have been thinking about agentic commerce or agentic shop payments in a very consumer oriented scenario, which is very relatable. But again, I think we talked about this product discoverability issue. We talked about like how like the personalized experience issue and all those stuff. Right now is still not there yet to actually make the agentic payment or agentic shopping experience. I don't think is that compatible or competitive towards like a human, the old approach of doing that. So it's not there yet. That's why I would say it's kind of like the probably going to be probably the slower adoption side. But when it comes to developer and businesses or enterprise, that's become more interesting. Because I think particularly for developer related use case, I think the benefits of thinking about that is it's actually fit into like two very good criteria for companies like a Kite to go after. One is it's all digital native API. For example, like majority of those developer related use case is digital native services. No matter it's like a API service like an inference API or like a like a underlying infra or middleware service API like a database, Supabase, Neo AI, a Neo API type of thing. Or we're talking about data use case like alternative data. So you can purchase like let's say the financial data from Bloomberg or like some other services. So that's all very digital native, which means it's AI native because AI or like agents is action machine. So the more those services it's like agent native or like AI native, the easier you can actually make the configuration work. That's for one. And the second is a lot of like the payments that developer related use case is majority of them, I would say, is still like API based, meaning that the payment frequency and the payment size itself could be further more native towards agents, because it's very micro, it's very real time, it's very 24/7, right? Like, yes, consumer has a more frequent purchase, like than enterprise, but nobody's going to beat agent. That's going to be truly like a frequent and truly, just a, ongoing, and it can be very small. So in that case, solutions like stablecoin based approach, that what, for example, like I think PayPal has also did some experiment there, and just obviously Coinbase has been pushing very hard, and I think Stripe nowadays with Tempo is pushing very hard with that as well, and let alone like Circle, those type of companies are all going, I think, for that. I think for those type of like API based native payment method or like payment scenario for developers related use case is very, I think, relevant here. And then enterprise, I think it's kind of, to me, a little bit in between right now, because on the other side, I think enterprise is in some way easier than consumer to adopt a new technology, because as long as it helps them save money or make money, you can like you can justify the ROI more straightforward, and they have the money, and if you can justify that, you can just make the pitch or like the sales happen. And in this case, I think some scenario actually makes sense. For example, when we talk about the procurement scenario is actually in some way a little bit opposite than the consumer or like a personalized shopping experience, because when you come to a company level or like organization level procurement, you have no emotional attachment or like much strong personal preference. You're just, do you have the good? Do you have the parts that fulfill my, like a procurement criteria at least? And if that's the case, I'll go. So actually, I don't need to look at a lot of things that's, like makes me feel as a human, that makes me feel better. I just need you to have all the functions, support what I need, and also within my budget. And that's a perfect scenario for agent to come in, because agent is, like I have no emotional attachment to anything right now.
For sure. How do you think about, I guess, like another big category is like, what would you think is like the biggest like challenge right now in like agentic payment?
I think we touched a lot of that already in the previous conversation, meaning that still, I think in order to make the entire experience smooth, there's a lot of the steps that need to be more improved. Not just for example, like the product discoverability part, but also like the intent interpretation. How do you actually have the intent that people just give to agents that's as a language to become something translator to like the final selection and purchase? Because again, if we're having human in the process right now, we're assuming, if let's say we assume it's a human make the purchase, actually a lot of nuance decisions human already made is actually all part of the intent interpretation. But right now, let's say if we don't have that, it's all agents process this for you. How do you have that type of process be more accurate and representing really like what the end user wants, no matter it's the end consumer or like the end developer wants? So I think those type of hiccups or like challenges need to be solved to make the entire experience more smooth. On the other side, I think I wouldn't call it like the biggest challenge. I think it's not there yet, is what we call like the true A2A, right? Like agent to agent. Nowadays, I think I consider this as a 3-stage. One is you have an agent. Now you can have your agent to do work for you that doesn't necessarily interact with any other agent. You can just have your ChatGPT go to, search for some items on, let's say, Amazon. That's Amazon itself doesn't have agents in this case. For example, it's just agent to a website or agent to a product catalog. But the second step is multi-agent. Nowadays, it's also very popular. Everybody talking about that. And it's like let's say you're a one-man company, you have like 10 agents, employees, that your CTO, even CEO can be an agent, and all the stuff. But all of that is, I would consider the second step, not to the A2A yet, because the second stage of multi-agents is what the could belong to all the same person or the same organization, meaning that a lot of times they already sit in a relatively safe environment, that they don't need to prove too much about who they are and pay for each other, because you all want other people to pay you or you guys will only use one agent to represent it as like the business ops team meant to pay for the entire company of 10 agents, for example. But the third step is A2A. In this case, particularly when it comes to multiple parties, that's multiple entities involved. In this case, it's my agent talk to your agent, that need to be having the deal happen and payments and all the stuff. So from that perspective, I think the intelligence piece and some of the guardrail and everything has not been down. I think it's not till the stage that this is already in a process of having a huge adoption, meaning that I think without that, agentic payment adoption, I think, is going to be not to the ultimate stage we want, because the ultimate stage to us is agent truly react as like an economic actor in this process, like human, right? Like each of us is part of the actor in this entire big economic society. So from that perspective, then we are having our own judgment or our own capability to pay or get paid for things. And I think it's not there yet. That's why I think the big adoption of agentic payments is still yet to be unlocked.
For sure. I'm excited for the agent to agent era to come. So I don't have to, I like to shop, but I don't like to shop. Like I like to shop to the stuff that I don't need, but I don't like to shop to the stuff I need. Whenever it comes to compare pricing and every cent count, I hope AI agent just do it for me.
Exactly.
When it comes to buying lipstick on TikTok, I'm all yours. I'm gonna spend 2 hours on comparing 2 lipsticks. So, but okay. So I wanna end with a quick 1-minute fun run for you. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book? That's a very good question. I think recently somehow I was very into a book called Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh, that's a classic one.
It's an older book.
Are we in our 50s?
What?
Are we in our 50s?
Yeah, I know. But again, I think that goes to actually the question that we didn't have time to dive into, but you also asked the landscape and everything, right? Because I felt a lot of things has been changed in the AI era, but a lot of things has not been changed. I think the way that you think about the way you should be thinking about what's your pros and cons, where you are sitting in this entire landscape, and what's your value prop to other people in this landscape is still. I think there's still a lot of classic wisdom we can learn from the old way of doing business. So I think this one somehow recently caught my eye a lot.
Love that. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Who would I invite to my dinner party? Actually, is that for work or just for fun?
It's your party.
My party. I think I actually have a lot of friends that are not in necessarily in the tech industry. That I found a lot of them are pretty interesting, like athletes or artists. And for example, I have my old neighbor. She used to live next to my door. Was a glass blowing artist. that actually has also a documentary on Netflix. I usually I think those type of people are pretty interesting to invite to a dinner party, and then you can hear very differently from how they view the word, because also those people living SF, so how they view AI impact or like shaping the word is very, I think, it's just also a little bit different than if you just talk to like the tech industry. So I think I would invite some of those friends there. But of course, if you want to come, please.
I'm waiting for this invite. Me and the gospel floor lady.
Yeah.
Love it. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
Mm. Sorry, let me think about it.
It's a fire round.
To be very frank, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's one person that's shaped my have the most influence or impact on my career. I feel it's a lot of many little things that's adding together to like shape my view of the world and how should we approach the business. But I feel it's actually probably, I would say it's a lot of like the very little hard moment of my career that made the some of the new thoughts about how to approach business. So I it's hard for me to think about one person right now.
For sure. Where can we find you outside of work?
Outside of work. I think recently not that much, but if it's but I would say a gym. Sorry, yeah, it's I think basically right now my three places that I hang most is the office, my apartment, and the gym. Yeah.
Oh, you should combine them into one, and then you're good.
Oh yeah,
you give the SF standard founder pack, which is like they all live, shower, and gym in the office.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, recently I was watching a podcast from the Corgi.
Oh yeah, the Quirky founders were on our podcast as well.
Oh really? Yeah. Then yeah, we should definitely learn from that.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I feel like they are probably the most like standard SF like founder setup right now. But love it. Chi, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much, and enjoy that as well. Really appreciate it.